So what that means is that I've said in all my videos, this is a classroom, and the teacher in the classroom, in this case, by my last illustration with that young man, was the Pacific Ocean, breaking on the beach in Newport. And for me, I love the North Shore of Kauai, Hanalei Bay. For surfers, that's a highly technical wave to surf because it's got a bowl section in the middle of it. So when you're traveling at a high rate of speed, which they are in Hawaii, we call it juicing. Juicing. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of electricity being metaphorically described as juice. Electrical juice. So all those that love to ride the juice ride waves in Hawaii. Pipeline, Makaha, Waimea. I've been on Waimea Beach, but it wasn't big there. But if you ever get a chance to go to Hawaii and on Oahu, although that's not really my island, there's too many parasites there, particularly in Honolulu. But if you ever get a chance to go to Oahu, particularly in the wintertime, because that's when all the storms up in the Aleutians and Canada, right, push all that energy. So when you're on the North Shore of Kauai, because I was there living in a treehouse in 1972, there's an enormous amount of energy that's pushing that water, that salt water, heading southbound. So the first island it hits down there in that part of the archipelago is Kauai. That's the outer island, northbound island, right? So that means the North Shore of Kauai is going to get the first impact. So there was a place there that we used to call dump trucks. Okay, dump the wave. Huge. I've seen waves that were 100 feet breaking offshore on the outer reef. Wow! You got guys like Laird Hamlin, he lives on Kauai, and I'm heading back there at some point in time to make sure that Zuckerberg is off that island, I guess, because that kind of energy does not belong there when love is the law. Okay? I experienced the most light, the most intense voltage and light on that island in 1972. Practically knocked me off my feet because your heart is a power center. Powers both sides up here. Prevents this from being hacked. Right? That's how we came in. So you know the rest of the universe is in you through your heart. So that's why as a child, they don't get the heart. Right? It's a hell of a lot stronger electrically and magnetically with a light to amplify your shield, your sword. That's why I used to joke around sometimes when I say, man, I don't need a weapon. I already got a weapon, the most powerful weapon. It's your heart. What she gave it to you for. So you know I've always got to be giving love back to the girl that gave it to me. Right? Thank you. That's protection. Just like when I used to run to my mother, when I used to have nightmares. I used to have really bad nightmares when I was a little boy. I didn't go run to be with my father as much as I love my father. I'm going to go be with my mother. Why is that? Because my mother was giving me love in the womb when I couldn't take care of my own self in that womb. She was preserving me. So that when it was time to exit her canal, bang, here I am. Let's go have some fun. We're here in a fun zone. Let's go climb a mountain. Let's go surfing. Let's go do what we want to experience, everything there's possible to experience. As fast as you possibly can because you realize how big it is. You want to experience the whole cosmos. Right? Girls know how this works because I've met girls that I've been with that do that. The girl on the planet is one of them. So the Pacific Ocean, as I explained to that young man about an hour ago, the waves of the Pacific Ocean is a teacher. Okay? Nature is the teacher. The classroom is nature. Who do you think does the physics in nature? Remember Schauberger, Victor Schauberger? Great book, Living Energies. Explains it in great detail. Living energies, living organisms, living awareness. Right? Just like all the junk that they put out. For example, when I grew up as a child, most of the clothes that I wore were made of nature stuff. Go look at all the tribes, what they wear. Okay, it comes from her, nature. Okay, not synthetics. When they started coming out with all their Dacron and all that, and as a footnote or sidebar to all that, my uncle was Wallace Carruthers, which worked for DuPont. Nylon? Yeah, my uncle was nylon. He developed nylon for DuPont. So all of the hosiery that women wear, you can thank my uncle for that. Okay? We're not synthetic. Okay? And so that's why my flesh kicks it out. Like when I buy tape to bandage myself, it'll start to irritate. That's my body way of informing me, get that shit out of here. Natural living energies do not like things that are fake, synthetic, AI made in a lab, because it has knowledge of how to do things. So that's knowing the difference between being real and being fake. Even though I realize artificial intelligence can be used for the benefit of everybody, but it depends on who it is that's putting it and creating it and allowing it to facilitate what it is we do through it, which becomes an experience. So we are experiencers. You better believe it. So I love to experience being with a girl, with the most powerful energy that is possible to experience at the highest ladder you can climb in consciousness. Through her. Right? That's called a pathway. A pathway up. From the bottom to the up. From the single point to the up. So I think it's time that all these intelligence agencies, guys that got large followings, people looking for data, they get all what I call the peripheral stuff. You know, at the end of the day, information wars, which are electronic wars, which is actually based on density consciousness. If somebody's giving you data and you experience that data, we can measure that data by what you experience in vibration, which is the same thing as the reaction. Okay? Light a tree on fire and what happens? You get a tetrahedron. A fire tetrahedron. Right? So they didn't want children to learn any of this stuff. All of the schools on this planet set up by these predators was essentially designed for jobs that they had already laid up based on what their needs are, not on who you are that serves your best interests or humanity's best interests. So you're being trained as an energy slave. That's why it's an obey your master program, and you obey. You get on your knees. So now I'm going to jump ahead to what we call self-abuse. So I'll use one example, because one of the things that a teacher does besides demonstrate how energy works by being what that is that you can observe, okay, and all the other tools that we use to teach, like a circle of light, right, being an example, all that good stuff, is this gentleman that sleeps to my right at night and makes an enormous amount of noise, which is an airway obstruction, which is also called sleep apnea. So I'm debating today because I've pretty much left it undone, but if you're truly a healer and a peacekeeper and a teacher, and we don't live in any fear, I want to be able to approach this guy in a way in which he can feel that I'm genuinely concerned with his health and his interests, because another hat that I do wear, because as a healer, I not only know how to do it with energy through my heart, which is what love is, but having gone to a number of classes at different universities, okay, in which, let's see what others are doing out there when it comes to alternative science, health science technologies that are being introduced that are going to benefit people, besides the criminal medical system that they have in place, which is primitive. Okay? Which is why it's got to disappear. Not when you realize what's actually available, that they have kept hidden from everybody. So if you truly love somebody, then you'll show it by what it is you can introduce to them to eliminate pain and suffering, because that's not what love is, right? Right. We are what the light is. So we want you to thrive. You're not supposed to experience pain and suffering. That was my first clue that I was held under capture when I was a little child, right? Because you know who you are and you know what you're not. We're not what they are. Nope. They use money to build armies and control things. Okay? Control what it is we experience. That's not free will. That's capture of the mind's energy. So, energy will always seek the path of least resistance. That's called a free spirit. Because that free spirit wants to spread as much love and much light as it possibly can wherever it needs to be stored, in which it's detecting a loss of electrons, which is a loss of light. Well, we can't stand to experience that, right? Remember the little insect I talked about? I swatted off my mattress, and I cried over that. I began to realize, my God, how small does it go? A cell. Wow, I lost a cell. I love all my cells. I'm in love with all my cells. I talk to them all the time. I love all you little guys. You're keeping me going. Thank you. I give you love. Every one of you cells, I give you love. Thank you. Self-abuse. So this guy is probably in about his, and this is observation, okay? But, when you observe things, we measure things. So what I was measuring, just like Dr. Robert O. Young will tell you, and I call it self-suicide or sadomasochistic programming, going in reverse. Remember I covered that? So this guy's probably about 35, 36 years of age, right? And he's obese. So that's an acid waste storage container. So that tells me that he's pounding sugar into his body, which is a waste product of metabolism, which is going in reverse, and why would somebody do that? Now, I realize it's lack of light, which is lack of knowledge, but there's a much bigger and more important reason than that. He doesn't love who he is, or he wouldn't be doing that. Because if his vibration was that high, with that much light, then he would be very aware of the elements around him that has been weaponized against him to drain his energy so that he suffers, so they can make a mountain of money off that through the medical system. And it also becomes another conduit through which they hold us slaves. Because nobody learned how to keep their energy, their batteries lit. Okay? So that's why when you think of it through a classroom perspective, what they did to this classroom is the biggest crime I know. Right? Which is why I cry about how many students were lost here as a result of what